And we're live. Hell yeah. So this is how it gets all put together. So let's see. What was I made myself a couple notes here, but I was telling Jason, I realized I read this again today, and I'm like, holy crap, I got a lot of reading to do to remember everything I'm supposed to do. It's not complicated, but I was looking. It's different. It's different. And let me see.
Gotta have a cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly. I have to do that. But I wrote myself some notes here, so I just want to go over those. And then if you guys want to interject stuff, go right ahead. Don't. One of the things I thought of is if we kind of decided that we wanted to do, some kind of jump drive, maybe use, but like use the real solar system here, and then I was thinking like we probably need some kind of list of star systems that like are real. So if we want to say, you guys are going to go to Vega, or you guys are going to go here. So feel free, like in the group, I would say to throw down a bunch of ideas, because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to go look at an actual map. It's been a while since I like to stargaze, I like physics, I like astronomy, but it's been a while since I have to remember where the hell these things are.
But are we going to be like hardcore about it, or is just like this is Rigel and whatever we come up with?
Yeah. No, it doesn't have to be super big, but I figure we might as well be real stars, But I mean, unless it's up to you, I'm like, I suppose.
I like the idea of star C475.
Yeah,
that's what I like.
You guys want to do that too? That's fine. I don't care.
I literally know zero about astronomy. I know there's 15 planets in our solar system here, right? I know that.
Nobody knows anymore. There were 9, then there were 8, then there were 9 again. Who knows?
But I do want to ask a question. So I know Sam is. I've seen Sam's vid, so I know you're fluent in this. You've played this, and Eloy, it sounds like you've played this, right?
I played what did I play? I played Apocalypse World on Play by Post, and that was really cool. And I played 2 sessions of The Veil with Fraser Simon.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Fraser was running it.
Nice.
Yeah,
So I'm the only one here with zero experience, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's okay to say. It's okay to say yes, you are. Oh, I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
Nobody told me I was going to have to buy dice, specialized dice.
Yeah, there we go. That's all you need. Oh, I got a miss. I got a 5. Okay, that's all you need.
Okay, enough fooling around. Okay, now that we know I have zero experience, so that's what I need to know, because I trust you all to teach me as we talk about this.
Well, I'll tell you what. Honestly, you don't need to worry about experience. Like these games, I would suspect that Ivan will corroborate this as well, having I think been on both sides of the screen now, right? Did you do a Veil one shot yet, or are you scheduled to?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. As a player, you just play. You just play.
Yep.
You don't, because, and it specifically says in the book, don't call out the moves. Don't worry about it.
Just narrate. Yeah, just narrate.
So, the only thing that might be difficult is, and it depends on how Ivan prompts it, but if he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you give me the information about this, that will be the part where it might be like, oh, wow, okay, shit, I gotta I gotta do my thing now.
That, I think we're all DMs. I think that comes easy for us DMs, inventing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what kind of blew my mind in the book today, going over the book, this might be my 3rd time.
Mm-hmm.
Time, the idea of plot, the quote in the beginning of the book, plot is the key, is the time, the idea of time. So am I narrating an hour? Am I narrating right here, right now? Am I narrating what we're doing over the month? What am I narrating? That's going to be a trick for me.
It's probably not going to be that big.
Yeah.
Things like ship shows up and it's the what did you call it? The guild,
actually I have a name.
Guild, whatever.
They're the Elsor Mech Tech Guild.
We're not that part of the tech.
We're not there yet.
But Ivan,
but the kind of question is going to be like, okay, the guild shows up. What did you do to the guild master last week that has him mad at you? So it's not like narrate 2 years. It's like, oh, I cheated on the poker game last week. Oh, that's why he's mad.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because when I read that, I thought, what happens when we are in a constraint and one of us pushes those time constraints outside the boundary of what's so that'll be I'm sure I'll get the feel of that, like we get the feel of a dungeon crawl time wise, right? We're going, we're simulating turns versus actually hitting something with a stick. So I'm sure it comes off that way, right? But
this game, I mean, one of the things I like about this game, as far as I've read, is it's very flexible. Like there's not really a rule like there's in some other PBTA games where like this move happens, they get this result, they must answer this question. It's literally just prompts. There's one part in the game master instruction says, ask them. So I tell you what, I will ask you the most difficult crap, Jason. I will make sure I put you on the spot. That's gonna be my plan. I will just screw you. Merciless. There will be no traps. There will be none of that DM Fiat crap. But I will ask you the weirdest shit.
No, you know what? You know what will really blow your mind about this game is that Ivan won't have to come up with stuff that will screw us. We will do it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And then it'll say, well, that's going to require a move. Prove it. And then when you you roll a 4, now we're in trouble. Yeah. The irony is, I'm going to say this. I was reading the book again today, and I said, this to me looks like it's actually a hell of a lot more work for the GM than it is for us, for sure. I don't feel that way when I play D20. But if he's not paying attention, if he's not, and then of course he's going to have to say, well, that's going to require a move. You're going to have to roll your expertise, right?
Yeah.
So that I think that can be a little more challenging for the GM actually. But again, that's I'm only getting this from my experience reading the book. So.
Yeah, that's been like I was saying before, that's been our experience so far in the Veil is just that, like I was saying before the broadcast is that we've noticed that times like as a player, you're like Sam said, you're not supposed to say the name of the move. A lot of times you're just supposed to narrate what you're doing. As a player, you should know what your like special. If you got some kind of special move, you should kind of have tabs on that. But really, it's a job. It seems like it's a job of the game master to kind of watch and be like, oh, that's a move. Here you go. Because we missed it a bunch of times in the Veil. Like we're just like, I think it was just a move back there. We should have done. Oh well,
And that would be the question. Again, like anything else, when you're calling on an actual challenge, that's when I would worry about whether you should ask for a move, when it's challenging.
I'll let you know. I think that's kind of the mindset.
Exactly.
And we'll probably, honestly,
so let's pause a second and there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of days about procedures at the table. And maybe that's something we should address, right? Because like we are all starting in this. So if somebody identifies the move and Ivan misses it, I go like, wait a minute, I think Jason just triggered X move.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Is that something
in reading it? Yeah, it's funny because in reading it, I thought I might use the term patch up. I want to patch up the engines, or I want to launch an attack, but you never generally want to use the name of the mechanic when you're narrating, but to me, it would be a way of me to prompt Ivan of what I want to use. But is that bad? Honestly, would that be bad etiquette?
I honestly don't mind if I'm missing something really blatant, like I don't mind you like waving a pair of dice in front of my face. Honestly, or using the chat. But like honestly, I really don't mind you like doing this and giving me like kind of like, hey, do you think that's a move, right? Without action, that's fine,
right?
Right.
So I almost guarantee that won't happen. And this game is very instinctual, at least from my experience with it, right? What's cool about and especially this game, because like if you wanted to call PBTA rules light, this is the rules light version of any other PBTA game that I've seen. But it's super instinctual, and like. You don't even have to know necessarily what the move is, because everything in this book is stuff that you do as a GM anyway, right? Okay. So the biggest thing for me that really messed me up at first was combat, because like in combat, if you're doing a blow by blow, that's more of a face adversity, because in fact what you're trying to do is accomplish something without getting shot or killed, right? But if you're like, no, man, I'm going full gun, you know, we're going guns blazing, then what you do is you have a single roll resolution for the entire combat. And so then the way I do it is I sort of narrate it back and forth. So instead of you roll, then we narrate, then you roll, then we narrate, we still follow that same procedure, but instead it's, okay, great. So you enter the scene and the hangar bay doors open and, you know, the thugs are there. And, you know, what do you do? Okay, I start opening fire, blah, blah, blah. You run behind here and duck. Okay, great. You do that. Then they throw their grenade and then you go back and forth until, and you know the outcome. So the outcome is either I succeed, I still succeed, but something's going to happen. And that's what Ivan gets to do. Or, oh shit, I fail. You know,
yeah. What I said is, I think it really does hinge on the GM. There's going to be a lot of pressure, I think, on the GM. To be honest with you,
you guys are screwed then.
But Eloy, to get back to Eloy's point, you were basically saying, should we actually suggest a move? Is that what you're saying, Eloy? You might suggest a move
if you miss it. Like if Ivan doesn't immediately go, wait. You have to roll for combat if you're going into combat, right? And or if you say I'm repairing the engine, and this is what Sam means by instinctual, right? As soon as you say I grab a wrench and I start tinkering with the engine, Ivan's gonna go to roll something here. So that's a triggering move, right? It's instinctual to that level.
More likely, though, where you'll find that happen. And sorry to interrupt you, Eloy. More likely where you will find that thing happening is with the actual stat. So if you know, if Ivan's like, okay, go ahead and roll, you know, expertise, and you're like, huh, the way I was picturing it in my head, I'm actually thinking that I'm doing, you know, I'm going in and getting into the computer, so I think it would be interface. Does that make sense, right? And then because that typically can be a little weird, right? Because you can be like, oh, all right, I could see how this might work here or this here. So that's been my experience with it, that like the moves themselves are pretty, because there's like 6 of them, I think.
Yeah,
for us anyway.
It's very simple.
You know, so that it's usually the, what do you call them, the attributes, or like if you have a specific skill, because that just happens. Like if the trigger is there, then your skill just it applies. So that can be weird when you're like, wait, I don't have to roll. It's like, well, maybe if the fiction, well, maybe. You know?
Well, I suppose we can't do it totally wrong. We just, as Ivan said earlier, we just role play the hell out of it.
Well, I mean, there's catch-all moves. So I think we'll be okay procedural. But honestly, like if you guys think I'm really missing the boat at some point, I mean, don't be afraid to kind of do some in the
see, I would never. See, I will never ever challenge the GM in game session. It's not ever worth it. But as a player, I know I will be irritated if I know I have these 4 skills and you're continually calling on something that has nothing to do with my skills. Then I'll be irritated.
Well, I mean that's the thing too. It's like as Sam said, procedurally, like whatever skill you have, if you're envisioning yourself doing something in a way other than using a different skill, you can say, oh no, by the way, I was really trying to interface with it, and that's, you know.
Right.
I mean, we do that kind of crap all the time in old school anyway. So it doesn't, you know, you say, oh no, dude, seriously, I was using my mace.
Because what I don't want to do is say, well, I'm using, I mean, if I say repair, I'm going to repair the engine. I have a feeling as a mechanic, I'll be saying that. It's just natural. And I think some of these games use these terms because they are the natural term people use in conversation. They cue the natural move, right? So that'll come up, I think, in some ways for sure, right?
Now, I had this outline we follow, but you know,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just because really just questions I want to ask. Like, make sure
we're being railroaded, guys.
No, it's hell yeah, you are. So here's I guess we have Esperanto as kind of like a language, although Sam said that maybe
threw that in there for.
Oh no, I love it. I think that's awesome.
You'll never catch Tiberius Gray speaking that, even though he does know it.
No, I kind of like I kind of like the idea that like Sam threw in there.
That is badass. So I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I like the idea that it's a colonials and merchants, but you don't speak in the core world. It's low class or uncouth. So the idea that Tiberius won't deign to like actually speak that's cool. So I think I'm hip with that. Let's see. I guess like one of the things you guys should probably take a look at, and we'll talk about like in group, like in the Facebook group. I don't think it's going to be super important. Is that I realized as I was reading through part of this today that you guys are supposed to work on some kind of ship sheet. I don't think you need to put too much work into it.
I thought I was going to leave that up to the captain of the ship.
No, I think the three of you can kind of talk about it. It's a Class 2 starship. It's a jump capable ship.
Yeah, what's interesting about it is that each of us has like quarters within the ship, right? And so, like for mine, I think, and I think I tied in my origin was privileged, so I chose the luxury skill. And so the way I'm sort of envisioning it is like we're on like a really shitty ship that we don't own, but like my quarters are nice, and I feel like that would really probably frustrate you guys. Like, what the hell, man? But like, but I can't help it, right? And then it also says in that one, gain one of the following NPCs: a retainer, butler, assistant, consort, or advisor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So feel free to make that guy up and make sure. Tell me.
And I'm supposed to have a workspace, manufacturing. So I figured I would be in the back where I'm always tinkering and working on stuff.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that what we're talking about here? Okay.
Yep. And what's cool about that is like you kind of own it, so you can describe like what it's like, right? And then, so that's neat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that would be part of the ship makeup.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do with mine because I got like 4 options based on my careers.
Yep.
So one is like barracks, which includes like berthing for soldiers, lockers, gyms, training rings, efficient, defensible, and practical. But I don't know if this fits with our profile, right? I mean, we're doing double duty, right?
What if we're a salvage ship that's also doing other things? We advertise ourselves as a salvage ship, and maybe we have a little mercenary army that we use for other gigs.
Well, yeah, the way I was kind of picturing it, and let me know what you guys think. But I was thinking for the faction. At least the one I would be associated with, and maybe this could be like a big faction, is I think I called it like something really boring, like transgalactic shipping and salvage. And it's like intentionally has this like very bland name. And the way I sort of pictured it was that they kind of control the big, like legit interstellar shipping, right? Like the really boring jobs with the humongous ships, but the salvage crews are the ones where the jobs are sort of questionable as to whether they're legal or not. And they're typically
we're more like pirates.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's like, but like maybe you're indentured to the company, right? And so it's like you kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So I was kind of picturing it as a way of like, but yeah, we also are trying to get ahead so that we can get out of our indenture contract faster, something like that.
No, I love it. That's a great idea. Yeah. I like that. And then of course you could have your bay with your soldiers and your barracks. So we would have some crew.
Yeah, that's one.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of like that because I kind of wanted to interact with like a couple of crewmen, Yeah,
I think. How do you pronounce your character's name? Johanno? How do you pronounce it?
Johanno.
Johanno, yes.
Johanno. It's close enough. Yeah.
No, well, yeah, he kind of, struck me like as the description you had of him is kind of the guy that would probably have the gun. Like if stuff went down, it sounded like your guy would be the guy people would get behind. Because I mean, he was former revolutionary. The guy's got to be, something. So
exactly.
I mean, you don't have to come up with your quarters now. Just kind of like give that some thought. I'd forgotten, how much we had to do with that. But let's see. So as far as like the actual crew, I know we talked about like having a small crew. It's not important like how many there are. I mean, like it's obviously I don't think it should be more than like including the 3U, maybe like 10 or something. I mean, it's not gonna be that big of a ship. But like, Yeah, I mean that's cool. The idea that's the captain has kind of some kind of retainer of some sort.
LA.
If there's LA, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's some soldier type guys. I mean, I honestly don't even care, Jason. If you
I
make
saw
up
myself
guys.
as total loner. I'm back in my workspace.
right.
I don't like to be bothered. I'm
Right
cranky. I'm quiet. And I got a little something to hide. So I don't want to. If I have anything, it would be like a robot assistant or something.
Right.
But I don't know if that fits the space cowboy thing. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask that as well, because I know we had sort of had a discussion about maybe not having AI.
Right.
Right. I remember you guys kind of, you said eventually, like, you didn't want to have like a real, dominant AI.
You mean a ship AI or AI in general in the universe?
I think you meant a ship AI was really that
right. Yeah, because I think there's got to be AI obviously in the universe.
Okay, good.
Sure, I guess. Yeah.
Right, but as far as ship AI, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. I think of Next Generation, where they talk to the computer all the time. So I didn't want something like that, where you're stopping and saying, "Well, computer, tell us." Yeah, that's. I like that for Star Trek.
If it's too super efficient, it kind of negates the need for the crew.
Right.
It's okay if it answers a couple of questions, like in Alien.
Yeah.
The AI is very limited. Matter, which Sam got me watching, the AI can run the entire ship. The crew is completely superfluous, right? They don't even need to be there. They could be asleep the whole journey, and the AI is flying the ship.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. Anthony ran a one-player game with I think Andre from the RPG Brigade, and it was like, so it was a Star Wars game, and the guy's flying around in a Carillion ship, like not like Millennium Falcon, but a different model. Yep. And he talks to the ship. He talks to the ship, but the ship doesn't have an AI. But he's like been in the ship by himself for so long. He just talks to the ship.
Yeah. That was a really good one.
And anyhow, I am planning. I think I'm gonna make a game master character that probably will stay in the background, but just like, especially if Eloy ends up running something. So I'll probably have some kind of NPC that's just and I'm almost thinking of stealing the I don't know if it was Sam's drug-addled doctor. I might steal that concept. I might have the unless
I think it would be smart if we're we're a inclusive salvage ship / pirate who's given assignments.
Right.
I think we should have a doctor for sure.
Right. But for some reason, there's never any painkillers on the ship.
Right. Yeah.
You're always out.
Yeah. And if Illinois has 7 or 10 men in his, in his little, we should have a doctor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll make somebody up. I kind of would love to have somebody but once again, not to be a spotlight stealer, but like if I end up playing. And of course that's a classic thing that the game master has to have the NPC cleric, because nobody wants to be the cleric, so I'll have to be the doctor. And let's see, I have an idea for a faction, but I'm going to kind of wait on that and put it in the group. But I think because it's part of the instructions here is like there's various different ways to make the factions, but one of them is for the game master to make one. So yeah, okay, we think we got all that peripheral stuff going on. I got a bunch of stuff from Eloy as far as his character, like from the actual Facebook group. But maybe you guys could send me.
I have my character and his entire back. Everything's written there.
Yeah. Okay. So I got Johanna. I got his character sheet, which is a little harder for me to read, but I got most of that. Actually, so that character I've got everything for. I've got everything for Jason's character for Vitor. With the pictures of which are just like awesome. He just looks like the most despicable little man ever.
He does.
And it does. He just absolutely looks despicable. And so Sam, Tiberius Gray, you're the one guy I don't have actual stats and everything for. You got a concept. But
I've got them. I'll post them up for you. I was trying to put them on a sheet, like I wrote them down. So they have a new character sheet, by the way. If you guys are interested in the there's
there you go. That's a real character sheet, Jason.
That's old school, baby.
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing the form fillable PDF, but for sure. But it's like this. It's weird because like with this game, there's so much. It's sort of weird in the way that like you have like 3-5 skills or whatever, but like there's so much stuff that goes along with all of it, right? And like your workspace and your look, and so which I kind of like, but at the same time, I'm like, man, this, like
that was.
And I was like, whoa, I can choose one, and then it's it's either fast or safe or pleasant or preferable. I'm like,
actually, one of the things about this supplement here, which is, let's see, where do I have it? I've got our Far Beyond Humanity. There's a bunch of this. I mean, some of this is about alien cultures and all that kind of stuff. But actually, I mean, one of the things, if you ever get there, there's a whole bunch of other backgrounds and stuff in here. I mean, not tons and tons, but enough to give you some really neat stuff. This has some really great rules for like psionics or magic or like all other kind of vibe that this core game doesn't touch on. So, or like, you're some, it's kind of like almost like being, I'm trying to think of, well, trope of the week. I mean, it was almost like the Force. You could do whatever kind of like thing it doesn't fit, where you make it more science fantasy than space opera. So it has a lot of neat stuff in there. But one of the first things, one of the many things that grabbed me out of Uncharted Worlds was the idea that there weren't playbooks.
Yeah.
And you can actually kind of create your character. I thought that was one of the coolest things. I'm like, thank God. Because some of the games, I mean, it's just, one of the things problems I'm having, not problems, but like one thing with the Veil is the playbooks themselves are kind of like these loner archetypes from like, you can actually kind of look at the character and say, oh, this is from the Matrix. This guy is from this fiction. And now you're trying to envision all of them working together.
Right.
All these main characters.
That was my problem when I played it, and even I was playing with Fraser, so it was like I'm having a little. Right. This party of people have so many different cohesive. Each has his own like little individual thing going on, and it's like, why are we even together?
Right.
It should be an awesome solo game. Like each guy has so much stuff going on. It would be like a great solo game, but combined, it's a bit difficult to. I don't know for me. But
yeah, well, and the neat thing about this game is like, I mean, literally, you can play a flunky. You can be Jason's character, and he was kind of more of a flunky, which is not a bad play. I tell you what, like I love playing a supporting character.
You call him a flunky now, but when he's fixing the engines. And we're running from the bad guy. We're running from a faction. You won't think he's a flunky. Unless I roll a 4.
There you go. You're like Mr. Scott. You're going to be a freaking hero right there. All right. Well, let's get on.
Be so polite.
Let's get on to the factions, because I want to make sure the faction. Oh, what you were saying, Eli?
I'm just saying these characters, with the way they're built, with the modular thing. Some people call that a feature. Some people call that a bug. I think that the way we think, because to us it's a feature. To other people it's a bug, because if you have never played like Apocalypse World, which I recommend, books there are pointed at each other. So because they have to compete, so it's a little PvP, right? And you can, when you read the playbooks, you're looking at a Mad Max movie. You're looking at the Road Warrior, right? This is Max. This is the chief of the people at the gas station thing. This is the little kid. This is the girl warrior. This is and they all have conflicting interests.
Yep.
Together, because otherwise you die, right? The world is against you. Engineered so that the playbooks will between them, which is this game doesn't have, so it's different. It's you can
well, and the nature of great storytelling is conflict, and that conflict should exist with the heroes. It should exist with the I mean, I haven't seen Apocalypse World, but I like the sound of that right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, already you guys have done that all by yourselves. So it's with Sam playing the pompous inner world guy, and Eli playing the colonial rebel, and then you've got the miserable little man in the engine room, It should be nothing but bloodshed all the time. So it's cool, and somehow you have to work together. So that's cool. But as far as the factions are concerned. When I sent you guys that message in the middle of the day, it said I wanted to kind of follow the rules of the factions. it's actually the idea that it's right above the little random generation thing, which I was not talking about.
Yeah.
It's like a 135, but it talks about the 4 things that factions have to have. It's might, reach, structure, and ideology.
Oh.
So
Right. Yep.
So this part of your homework is to kind of make that up for your faction. You know, to like get, answer those 4 questions. Like what is it about those?
What is that page, real quick, sir?
It's a 135, I think. Did I just say that?
Yeah.
135.
135.
Oh, thank you. Yep, gotcha.
It's very top of it. So you have to like determine like the might, reach, structure, and ideology of your faction.
Okay.
So I've got these 3 factions. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. we can already know. Go ahead.
Exteri
What is it?
Colonioi Alianzo.
So the EKA, the Outer Colonies Alliance. And so it's a faction that I used to work for. I put down like it says something like it rebelled against the core worlds or Terra and lost. Yeah, but there's still kind of an underground guerrilla terrorist resistance. So, I mean that was kind of like the concept that you were going with originally. So, so just kind of flesh that up. That's a great faction,
Yep.
And then of course you have to come up with your character sheets, like what's your debt to the faction, all that kind of stuff, because good chance they'll come a knocking.
Yes.
Then let's see, we had Sam that had the colonial shipping and salvage.
Yeah, I think I changed it to transgalactic shipping and salvage. If I don't care either way.
Oh no, transgalactic is fine. I don't care. I'll rename that.
Mine I was calling the guild, but I have a name for it now. So
I hold on. Yeah. See, hold on 1 second. And so, so like, Sam, I would fill that in, especially all the good stuff about like how how much it controls, because it sounds like you've got one bad business deal and you're in the wrong end of an indentured contract with them, and they have 2 years of service left,
Yep.
And they but you said they control the big legit shipping, but it sounds like almost like they kind of control the underworld shipping as well, but through the back door.
Yeah, well, or they're involved in it. Yeah, the way I pictured it was that like they're probably the major player in galactic shipping, right? That but it's boring because it's like they still have to pay all of the tariffs, but they get a better deal because they're big and whatever. So they try to squash independent shipping and whatever. Like they're huge. They're the big organization when it comes to commerce.
So they're kind of like the company in Alien, for lack of like the company.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, but again, like this is sort of like the salvage operation. I mean, I would think maybe like salvaging is legal technically. And so some of the salvage operations may be legal, but everybody goes out to salvage because it's one of the only ways to make money. And so typically it's, well, we've got this intel about this thing. It's highly illegal. We're salvaging some medical supplies from a core world, whatever, to bring it to, an EKA faction in, on planet X973. And they're sort of like, hey, there's this job, go do it. Don't get caught.
So, I mean, how much should we share our factions' intent? That's one of my questions for why I've got my stuff here. I haven't shared it. I mean, should my faction be up to something I know about, but you wouldn't?
Well, I don't. That's a good question. I suppose as far as, let me take a look. I mean, I suppose as far as like the surface ideology of the faction, you should definitely share that. Like we should know like what's up. If there's other stuff that you want to reveal later on, I don't know if there's really anything that says you can't do that.
Well, see, my idea, I mean, I'll tell you guys, it's not about keeping it from you guys. It's so there would be espionage. Their whole goal as the mechanics union is stealing industrial secrets, espionage. And so they plant in my head a chip that lets me tap and steal and collect data, whether I want to or not, right?
Right, yeah, okay.
Something like that, right? And the reach, of course, would be like the they might be on every one of the ships that are part of your faction. Yep. They're all over, right?
Right.
So structure, I haven't quite figured out. They're a union, and there's workers, and there's robots, and so I'm assuming again deep structure. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something. I mean, again, it's not because I want to keep it from you guys. I'm thinking, how would that go?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's something that's probably. I mean, one of the things that seems to happen in these types of games a lot is there is a lot of meta. There's a lot of stuff that like you step out of the actor stance of playing your character, and it is a lot about being a director and being an author and then creating all this stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
As a player. So yes, I mean, I think that's fine. That's actually kind of cool. I remember quipping to you. I'm not sure if I said that to the rest of the group or whatever. I almost kind of envisioned your faction when you were talking about it as when Marconi developed wireless or the Morse code and all that, or you had the Morse code and the wireless thing, like all the ships that had like a Morse code operator. None of them worked for the ship. They all worked for Marconi. He owned the whole. It was a monopoly. So any place where somebody had a Morse code thing, that was Marconi. Like there was his guys.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like almost the same thing, or almost like the guild steersman in Dune. Like they're the only people who can pilot a ship. They don't work for you. They're on the ship. It's your ship. But like, you want to fly this thing?
Well,
you got to get one of us. So.
And I think to go along with the espionage part of it, it could be that what the Mechanics Guild did was they made themselves the group to fix the communications ansibles throughout the galaxy. Yeah, but what that means is because all of that digital information basically passes through those ansibles and gets transmitted, they figured, oh, hey, we could, as we're fixing this thing, go in and grab some of this info, right? And so,
because see, I had exactly a kind of idea that again, I have this ability to interface with this chip, and I know what they're doing, so I don't really want to partake in it any longer. Kind of is again, I might actually owe my faction out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
Betrayed. I may have betrayed my faction, and you guys wouldn't know it ultimately.
Right. Yeah, right. I think that's part of what you can do. I mean, you can. So anyhow, it's your faction. Tell me what the name is now. You had the big confusing name.
Oh no, just Elsor MechTech.
How do you spell that?
ELSOR, Elsor MechTech. That's all.
Okay.
Mechanics and technicians. That's all.
Okay.
Elsor MechTech.
Nice.
And you know what's going to happen, right? Is like immediately, right off the bat, it'll be like, okay, and now there's 5 thugs employed by Elsor MechTech. What are they doing here?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so is there anything else? Is there anything else about that faction you want to share with us now, or is that's it? That the rest is all stuff you have to make.
I haven't fleshed out the ideology yet, but it would be. I think Sam just nailed it. Right? They want to have control of the data, information.
Right.
Right. They're Google.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that is not we don't
Space Google.
Yeah, exactly. I had a different idea for my own the GM faction, but I tell you what, the one faction that is painfully absent is whatever government controls the core worlds.
Right.
So I mean, what do you guys want to call that? I mean, maybe that can be a community faction. I mean, it exists. It doesn't mean that you guys owe anything to it, but it's definitely a player in the galaxy. What or the.
You said a government? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying, in other words, the EKA had to rebel against somebody, and it's obviously that. I mean, unless the transgalactic shipping and salvage, it wouldn't actually be the government.
No, I didn't picture them as being the government. I almost picture, and I don't know the right word for it, but I almost picture like a group of different heads of the different major corporations. It's effectively this cyberpunk future in space where, but it's not like cyberpunk per se, but it's it's big megacorps that form together to create.
It's so big that you need all of these corporations to come together.
Yeah, because otherwise the galaxy will just be in chaos if they're all fighting each other. So it's like. I'm trying to think of a clever word for that.
Solarian Consortium?
Well, I would. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yep.
Jim. Nice. That sounds sinister too, man.
So we're still trying to figure out the faction that the EKA has been fighting. Is that right?
Well, it sounds like that would be appropriate.
Well, I got you.
Yeah, Because that would make a lot of sense.
Let's see if Eloy's got a good one here, since he's already envisioned what his character's done, right, in his career. Who have you been fighting?
I'm thinking there's been like a secession war, right? Like the outer colonies are trying to break free of the central control, right? So maybe there's been like at least a bunch of guerrilla wars or something, and it's not going so well. Figure out why he left the fight. Maybe the fight has cooled down after the EKA got slapped, right? Maybe the EKA is back on the rise, trying to rise again, but maybe Johano, it's I'm going to do something else.
Well, I guess we could both be plants on this ship.
I don't know.
I'm a plant on behalf of my, my guild, and you're a plant on behalf of yours.
Yeah,
I mean, we could be on this ship for, because they don't. We're spies ultimately.
Yeah. Or maybe we're hiding. It's because I was thinking maybe Johano is hiding, right? It's like,
so we're both hiding. That would be perfect too.
Yeah.
I mean, where else you go to hide, right? You don't get a real job. You get one of these jobs that nobody wants.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Who's playing heavy metal?
That's got to be Ivan.
No, I'm waiting for the right to.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
yeah, exactly. Cool. Attention, all planets of the Solar Federation. We have assumed control. That's what I'm thinking. As you're talking about that's the session. Is at the end of 2112. That's all I can think. That's all I can think of. Is attention, all planets of the Solar Federation.
Control. We have assumed control.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I can work with that. And then I had an idea for a GM kind of faction, which controls kind of like more interstellar technology, but some of the far-reaching colony worlds, some of the more esoteric, weird technology that's coming back, but some that people don't know a hell of a lot about. They're kind of whack jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the sort of experimental tech that is maybe like black book kind of stuff. Like they can't officially condone that kind of. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but I'm sure more may or may not be revealed about that at that point. But I have an idea. I mean, I'll put some stuff down. But I had almost. I mean, it's a humanocentric game, but I had the idea of some consortium that or a group that had probably made some kind of contact and had gotten back some kind of technology.
Oh, nice.
Or actually, they had the little create your faction sort of thing going on here. I didn't actually even use any of the concepts from the other book, but let's see if I had what the words I was using. I had that little random make your own thing. I did not roll the dice. So I'm thinking what kind of tag words could I use for this? So it was fanatic. Let's see. Wait! It's fanatic starfaring cult.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That kind of weird crap. I can't remember the book I read one time where it had a couple. It might have been Deep Drive. I forget, but it had some alien races, and the people that had ended up having contact with them, they were cultish. They were crazy.
Very good.
Fiction is rife with all that kind of stuff. So probably all those kind of people that you see them coming, you're like, oh, go the other way. Oh, they're crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, you start thinking about returning to your faction. When you see them coming.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, those guys are worse than the guys that I did.
You're not really sure. It's not even that you're afraid of violence. It's you're afraid that some of it that you might catch something.
Right.
Wash your hands. You touched them. Wash your hands. That kind of stuff.
It's like I was talking to Jimmy just last week, and he said his sister came in contact with one of them, and then all of a sudden she turned blue and died, and it was right.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
That's good.
So I think
I like that.
I think I think as far as like what we need to figure out, I mean, like I'm gonna reread the book again and just get some more knowledge. I feel like what do I need to make notes for, that kind of stuff. I'll post, I guess, in the group if there's something I really have a question about. But really, I think it's the idea of like flesh out that whole ship thing, flesh out your factions, flesh out anything else about your character.
Okay. So you're gonna make a doctor and let us know about him, right?
Oh yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay. Now we don't decide the size of the ship and everything, right? I mean, it's just our spaces. I'm my workspace, your barracks, right, and your captain's quarters, right?
Yeah, typically the size of the ship is determined by the scope of the campaign that you're playing. So like the standard is sort of I forget what they call it, but it's what we're doing. It's that you have like a cargo ship of some kind, a class 2 ship. Yeah. Okay. I would imagine that they're probably pretty cramped overall. But that's one of the weird things about this system, that it's sort of like, how do we figure out the ship? And basically the answer is however the hell you want. Exactly.
Make it up.
I got the one that really seems to be most applicable is on 150. It's like a class 2 starship.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's got a jump drive. It can be run with two to 4 people, but can support dozens of additional passengers or crew. It's a matter of like how many do you want. But it's also got it's got cargo holds, which is probably if you're doing salvage. Even though one of the cargo holds is completely looks like some kind of swank posh little resort area. Complete with a shuttle that Anara from Firefly would be jealous to have. Right. Other than that,
and it's 3 times the size of the cubicle that I have to work in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so is your captain actually the pilot as well, Sam? I mean,
yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, the way I was kind of thinking of it was like these ships are probably ships that are just this edge of going to the salvage yard. Like they probably, don't. They're probably not in good shape. They're not highly maneuverable. Nice. You're not going to get a lot of fancy flying out of these things. They're probably not armed.
Nice.
But yeah, I would think so. It's probably pretty easy to fly.
Yeah. So you can pilot it in a chair by your lonesome.
Yeah, I would pilot it for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there is actually there's nice ships. There is actually a list of points or things like what do you want on your ship. So you guys might want to talk about that in group about maybe you might want a gun on the ship. You don't have to have a gun, You might want to, or whatever. What does the ship have?
Disguised as a crane.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of guns, we are using the high tech, low tech thing. We were using projectile weapons that we decided.
Bullets.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's more fun, especially for more of a hard sci-fi kind of thing.
My guy carries a wrench, a class 2 wrench that stuns and is defensive. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love that class 2 wrench. Like, what the hell is that, man?
I think you get a class 0 and so many class. You get a class 1 and you get or something. So I made a class 2 wrench, a simple suit that has with mesh weave, and then I have an engineering kit.
Right.
That's it. And then of course my workspace for the ship. But so,
but yeah, cool. But yeah, the ship itself actually has stats. As far as you've got. I forget what it's like. You got 4 things you can actually add to it, or do you want a cargo base, or do you want a gun, or whatever? we have to look at it again. But
yeah, I think it starts on page 40. It's you've got the helm, you've got engineering quarters in the cargo bay, and then I forget what else, and then your workspaces, obviously. And then armaments if you want them.
Basic design.
So in other words, but when you guys have to do some fancy show off flying because you're in big trouble, that's happened?
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm sorry, you broke up there, Ivan. What did you say? I missed that.
I said when it's time to fly the ship into an asteroid because all over the place. Because that'll be Sam's character doing that at that point.
Because Sam's character is getting getting a shave from his valet, and I have to pilot it. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I'll tell you, I really don't want to be in that position where we have to do any kind of fancy flying. So let's avoid that. But no, Yeah, I'm sure I probably would. I mean, I think it's probably one of those things where, like, if we're in that situation, we're like, good luck.
We're in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
We're going to be making a whole lot of, let me see, what are they called? Brace for impact rolls, right?
Yeah. Nice.
In a gun on the ship or no? Because no, it's kind of interesting. We have to run away, right?
I really think we should not have a ship's gun. I really think we should.
I mean, how would we explain it to the authorities? I'm assuming they're going to be real authorities, and we're supposed to be salvage.
Right.
Yet we have a mercenary crew. We can probably hide weapons in the cargo.
Right.
Right. But how do we explain to, say, authorities, if we're not pirates,
right,
we can't have a gun, right?
Right.
You might get away with like self-defense, right? It's kind of like the Wild West.
It's the idea of the Star Wars style versus the Firefly style, right? Because like Star Wars, every freighter has a gun, right? Because you'd be stupid not to. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Like, I sort of picture it as like maybe the galaxy's not all that lawless per se, because the factions maintain so much control.
Bingo.
And yet there would be pirates, but like even pirates, like it would be expensive to arm a pirate ship. So like you were probably more looking at like boarding actions. I mean, that's the way I kind of was, but I'm okay with, because then you have.
See, I see our ship is equipped with something that lets us grab hold of salvage and lock down and then drill holes and blow doors open.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're not going to get into firefights, right? That's the way I see it. Yeah. So in that sense, I do agree with. Now, as far as defensive, though, Eloy's got a good point. Don't we need something defensive?
Well, it's clear. It's clear what you have. You have the wild jump.
Yeah.
Oh, bingo! Brilliant. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, pilot.
And we got shipboard Marines, right? That's Johanno and the fighters. We can repel pirates if we get into that, but
we can repel
boarding actions.
Yeah, we can repel pirates, the consortium's finest. Shock troops maybe not, but
and we put them in jumpsuits and they move cargo around the bay when we're boarded and investigated, right?
Yep.
They just look like guys in yellow jumpsuits moving cargo around.
Yeah, and you could be yelling at them like,
Back there.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you read Starship Troopers ever, like not the movie, but the book. And it's a great, because he talks about the idea like everybody fights, like there was nobody on that entire ship, like the cook, the doctor, the captain, the guy that cleaned the toilets, everybody. They all went down. They all did drops. They all fought. There were no soldiers and the other guys, support staff. So. Yeah, I love the idea. Soldiers going to be moving stuff around and clean the toilets and everything else. They might not be happy, but
Yeah, and I love the idea that my guy got on this to get away from the where he was stuck in the guild, and finds himself in a situation where we're actually taking ships.
Yeah.
It's like how the hell did I get here?
Yeah. One thing that's really interesting about this game too is because you can like. Eloy, in theory, will have command over those 5 or 10 people, and so that's sort of important in the sense that, like, when we're in the fiction, right, and we're narrating that, sometimes your dudes can make a move, right? So like you say, okay, yeah, I command them to go off and do this, right? So you might make, I think is it called command? Yeah, it's command.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
and then that can kind of help them, and then or if we're acting and then you're like, guys, get in here, then they make like a get involved roll, I think. And so it's weird, like that freaked me out the first time, because I was like, wait, how the hell do I deal with these nebulous NPCs? I was like, because I'd forgotten, and the guy was like, oh yeah, I'm bringing my 4 guys along with me, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
and the great thing is, one roll can dictate the narration of the whole scene.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And Eloy will get to tell us how his units take the ship.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah, well, that's kind of weird. I was just reading about that today. I was doing a little Forge reading again. Every once in a while, I go back to Ron Edwards' essays, and they get a little clearer to me. But there's a point of like, they call a different place, like, where do you roll the dice? and there's like what they call fortune at the end, which is like you say everything that's supposed to happen, then you roll the dice, and you're like, oh crap, it's a miss, which is problematic, but like, and then there's fortune, what they call fortune in the middle, where you say this is my intent, then you roll the dice, and then you describe what happens, and but then you got fortune in the beginning, which seems like generally tends to be problematic, but it seems like that's kind of almost what this game wants you to do is you say just a very little bit of intent, but then you roll the dice and you narrate this whole combat. Like, how much do you want to narrate that back and forth or whatever? We can figure out what the ebb and flow of that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about it, in reading the combat, to me seemed, in reading the combat today, seemed fantastic. The idea that you roll an 11,
right,
and we know the outcome. Now it's just this amazing back and forth narration between the GM and the players. It's fantastic. Or the player who narrates his. Yeah. I mean, I kind of dig that,
Right.
Yeah.
So no, that's cool. That's cool. I like that.
It is, and
I think that's a
too. And that's Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think that's a fix from, well, for me, it's a fix from other PBTA games because I think they get lost in the weeds when they try to do turn-by-turn combat.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I lose. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I mean, it's a goblin. I mean, it could be like virtually impossible to kill, or it could be gone in like one hit. So this fixes it because one roll. Okay, we're done. We know what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing, again, the fascinating part is how long does the combat go? So it's a one-roll combat, but how long do you narrate this ebb and flow before we resolve it?
Well, it depends on if you're talking or not. Like, if you're talking, it's going to be like 20 minutes.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. No, there's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
I tend to do, like, my sort of rule of thumb was like they would start, I would prompt, they would respond, I would prompt, they would respond, and then that was it. Like, I might throw in two things. It depends, right? Because if it's somebody who's like really, really good at narration, then I might be like, oh yeah, let's keep this going. But yeah, that's a weird thing about this system, though, for sure. It's like trying to figure that out.
That's probably a good procedural thing we could try and figure out, or a discussion we could have at some point, because this is not many systems do this, or at least not in this fashion. The only thing that is similar to this would be like Burning Wheel, where you get an intent and you abstract the whole thing into one roll.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do that in Burning Wheel, and that's one of the problem with narrative games, right? We're so used to the little blow-by-blow and old school that sometimes it's like, that's it. The whole combat just went. And it's like, I'm missing my combat, man. So it's one of those things.
Yeah. It's a different experience. We're going to be at this game to do something other than executing combat, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you can do combat
that's cool.
really well in the game, but it's so hard when you're used to turn-based combat. Like, it's really difficult. Like, I remember when, sort of in the same way, like the first time, I don't know if you guys ever played Fate, but like the first time I played Fate, like you have to completely forget everything D&D and everything D20 and like just get into the story mode, because it's like, and you'll fight it hard because it's like, the first time you get into combat and it's like, okay, Johanno, go. And it's like, no. What you do is you say, okay, this is the situation. And then Johanna will say, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do. And then you would say, oh, okay, great. Johanna's doing that. So I think what I'm probably going to do is try to help with this, which would then prompt a move, right? And then you would say, oh, and as I'm seeing that, I'm going to do this, which probably also prompts a move. But then Johanna actually makes the roll, and we've done support rolls, and then the whole fiction gets,
it's sorted out.
I can imagine, because one of the things that I do love is cinematic storytelling. So the idea of this, I think of, you're in a cafeteria, you're ordering lunch, you're surrounded by a couple of thugs, and you say, okay, I'm gonna launch an attack, or whatever term I might use, roll a die. and I roll an 11, and it's describe how you beat the living shit out of these 4 guys. I mean, I love that. It's just we have this amazing ebb and flow of this hand-to-hand fight in a bar. You know, it'd be cool. I kind of dig that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Instead of the roll to hit 1 point, right? I've been doing that for 30 years.
Oh, it's so weird.
That's part of the allure.
Yeah, when you first encounter it and you're like, okay, so I take damage. Yeah, absolutely. This weapon does critical damage. And you're like, wait, huh? And then so it's like, oh, shit, that's bad. Like it tells you right in the name of the damage. It's critical, right? And then you do a patch up and it's like, oh, okay. But oh man, that one, like, I was like, wait, what do you mean there's no hit points? Because like even Dungeon World has hit points.
Right.
But like this one, it's like, nope, you know, you have the damage tracks. And so it's like, whoa.
You die fast. Yeah. But here's the last question I want to ask, because I was thinking about this is, how long do you want a jump to actually take? And the only reason I ask that is because there is that close quarters move. Mm-hmm. Do we want jumps to be instantaneous, like from point B, or do we want like some kind of hyperspace travel? You know,
I certainly like the idea of opening the game up coming out of a long jump.
Yeah,
and we kind of find out how we come out of that jump and how we feel about each other. Kind of neat.
And honestly,
we could start to get some conflict right out of the gate.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if you want to, Ivan, you can sort of just leave that up to, okay, you guys have come out of the long jump, roll your thing, right? And then we can just kind of go with it.
Right.
I'm sure I'll be like, I can't believe I had to spend, the last 3 weeks listening to Johano, bitch about the consortium, It's like,
and why Viator hasn't been fixing the toilets on time, right? I've been really slow about getting the toilets fixed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I start yelling at him about
toilets.
Right, and I'll be like, "Why haven't I had hot water the last 2 weeks in my shower?" And Johanna will be like, "Wait, what? You haven't had hot water?"
Because I'm a mechanic, not a plumber. Damn it.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. So ballpark figure, it's like days, maybe weeks.
I think it depends on where you're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you're jumping within, I would think probably hours if you're within the same system, days if you're,
And would that depend on the size of our ship? Again, if we got kind of a junker here, would that affect it?
You tell me. That's up to your narration, man. Maybe you're a lousy mechanic. Maybe
I mean, I would think he's probably a pretty damn good mechanic, but like.
But I don't want to do any more than I have to.
Well, and it's like at some point the tech is so bad that you're just like.
Listen, I'm union. I'm only going to do what I got to do, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's made the jump slow on purpose.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I don't want to get anywhere. I just want to make sure we stay in hyperspace.
Yeah.
Because they can't catch me if we're in jumps.
Well, so that prompts another question then. Do we have like fuel? Do we have to like refuel?
Boy, that's a pain.
Because I mean, according to Star Wars now you do.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, typically, I mean, most sci-fi technobabble or space opera technobabble usually is that like I hate to use the Star Trek terms, but usually you got some kind of impulse engines that really actually make you move forward and backwards and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then there's just some kind of hyperdrive or warp thing, which just warps space, and then you're in that hyperspace. So maybe it's up to you guys whether you need fuel and what the hell is your fuel.
Well, and that can also be a complication, right? If you fail the piloting check, Ivan can throw at us that we're running low on fumes, something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's a good question. I have no idea.
I think there may be some in the actual ship thing about fuel, or like, so we could take a look at that too.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Mechanics don't deal with fuel, so
that is something that I encourage you guys to like bring up in the game too. I mean, or if you're a little lousy, then maybe I'll make up the fuel you need. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Oh, we'll be lousy, but I don't think we'll be lousy role players. I think it'll, we might not be real nice people though.
Right. Well, that was one of the things I have to reread this game, but I can't imagine it says differently. You know, when we were discussing the Veil, because we've been playing that, and like generally the game master moves are usually prompted by like, you roll a failure, you're supposed to have a game master move, and then when everybody looks to you like to do something, like nobody can think of doing anything, then it's time to make a game master move. But then there's a part where it says when they hand you a golden opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's like one of those moments, like you've got to be an idiot to not introduce a complication here right now. You know,
like I did last night.
It just
when they lowered the enemy kobold down on a rope and with a torch, and I had the kobold burn himself free and run.
Yeah. But
that's a golden opportunity.
I'm telling you guys to lower down a kobold with a torch.
Yeah, right. But like, wouldn't you say that that's sort of like instinctive GMing? Like you know, as the GM, I have to do something here.
Oh,
right?
Of course, yeah.
And
so, especially when they're going, he's leading them into the lair of his leader. He's not going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I mean, just here's a warning. Like if you guys come out of that jump and Vitor says, "Well, I'm going to check the fuel." Let me tell you something. That's a golden opportunity because it's going to be on it's going to be on E. You know.
Well, I got news for you. When we're coming out of the jump and he's piloting, I'm going to be in his fancy quarters with my feet up, eating his fancy foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the captain's going to be mad that he has to run me out of his fancy quarters all the time.
I almost think that like whoever my attendant is like right there eating with you. Like,
right. Yeah. We're playing cards. We're playing dice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
All right. Well, any other questions, guys, or are we all good?
No, guys, I really do look forward to it. This is going to be fantastic. Yeah. So I appreciate the opportunity. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
So we are Friday at 8, right? Is that our actual plan?
Yep.
8 Eastern? No.
8 Eastern. Yeah. 19th, right? At 8 Eastern.
Okay. So 6 o'clock my time. Okay. Yep. I better write that down. I thought it was 10 o'clock your time. So 6 o'clock my time. Okay.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. How do you do?
Tell me.
I am totally off on Fridays, so it doesn't matter to me, guys. Whatever you need, I'm free. I just need to know so I'm not, I'm here.
I have it for 8 p.m. Eastern, so it should be 9 p.m. to me. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, right on.
And 6 p.m. for me. Perfect. Okay, so Friday.
All right, excellent.
That's outstanding.
All right, and boom. All right, I just put in the group chat that you set up, Ivan, like a plan. And
I know, it just buzzed right there. Yeah.
So theoretically, that should like alert us.
Okay.
Fantastic. Very good.
I'll wake up. Yeah. Cool. Well, the cool thing is my prep for this now is so much less than my prep for All for One because I'm supposed to run All for One like Wednesday morning if all goes well, like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow.
So that's a lot more GM prep. It has to actually make sense for the rest of the campaign so far.
Yeah, you've got a lot of canon there now, so you got to incorporate that.
We have a butt ton of canon. We have I don't know if we I don't think we televised this or actually made it public. I'll tell you one thing here. I was talking to Francois, like Anthony had a thing. This is a list of important non-player characters.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
I had to make this because we have a OneNote document, right? We have a OneNote document, which is cool. It's right, but you have to navigate lots of pages and what have you. So I had to literally, and I've got on this thing literally like arrows, like who are they? Who are they related to? When did we kill them? What happened? Mm-hmm. What possible tie? Is there a question mark? Like what's going on with this one? Because,
oh my god!
I mean, and it's the thing is that's just what happened over time, and especially with multiple game masters. Like every guy is introducing a new thing, which is great. And but then also there's these characters like there's mysteries involved. Like do I ruin this mystery for myself and take it over and add all the extra details, or do I just not touch that character and use another one? So
and it just grows and grows and grows. Yeah.
And I mean it's like in a game like this, if we rotated game masters, because it is supposed to be a lot more collaborative, it'd probably be a little bit, a little bit easier. But this is like very simulationist. Like this is the way the world. So it's
Yeah, and you're dealing with actual history. I mean, you're in Paris.
Yeah, there's that too.
Which is always which always makes things even more. And then you're dealing with the French language, and I hear all for one, and I just walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, I love watching the games, but I don't want nothing to do with
here's
all that.
Here's the remarkable thing. It's like when my pretend French accent and Francois Letart's pretend Hungarian accent sound the same. We're both. And I swear to God, like when he did, I'm like, oh my God, you're making fun of me. He goes, no, this is how I know. But Eli, what were you saying?
This brings up like an interesting thing again with these types of games. This is the dichotomy of low prep versus high prep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's part of the allure of the game is low prep, right? So you're ready to go. The high prep games tend to be the ones that have like a long longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's weird. I mean, most people are like, because my is very indie, they tend to last like really a couple of sessions, and then it's like, okay, let's play something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think they do lose. I mean, even for my, I'm high prep, whether it's I'm going to let them run in a world or I'm going to have stuff available. Like, I had 16 pages, 8 point for that game last night. I mean, that's just me. I am big time prep. And because I don't know, they might decide we're going to Eastland, to the port of Eastland. I'm like, oh, I better have something. Right.
Well, so the beautiful thing about this system is that I feel like in traditional games, all of the questions that you have as a GM that you would then provide answers for, like you're prepping answers, right? Where with these games, you're prepping questions.
That's fast. Yeah, you ought to do a video about that right there, Sam. You really should.
I might, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, so like if you were like, okay, well, what if they go to Easton? What is the thing in Easton? In this game, you'll say, "Hey, Bard, you happen not this game, but you know what I mean, like PBTA, right? You're the Bard. You hear stories. Like, what have you heard about Easton?"
Yep. And I did that in D&D 5e this summer with my group. I actually told them, I don't know, what's the blacksmith's name?
Yep.
And they couldn't believe it in D&D 5e. I said, no, wait, tell me about this blacksmith. Tell me what the blacksmith knows. Yep. And they loved it, but they were paralyzed at first because they
you get used to a certain style too, right? And so like that's the thing with PBTA that I always tell people is like you have to be ready as a player to improvise, which sounds weird because that's all you do as a player, but it's like on a much bigger level. It's like
you're not responsible for it. You're not responsible for it. I'm only responsible for my character and what my character thinks or says.
Yeah.
But if I'm suddenly responsible for, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Eli, what were you gonna say? You were saying something about degrees.
It's all what Jason is saying of doing asking for input from the players is a matter of degrees, right? You start them off slow, like give me the name of the blacksmith. Name is the extension of that. It's what did you do last time you ran into this guy? Why does he hate you?
Yeah.
Your chunk of improv that you need to do versus blacksmith's name. Oh, I don't know, Bob the Smith. Okay, you're done.
Yeah. And that's part of my concern is to do this. If we did rotate, I would want to do it, but I'd want to go dead last once I've had a chance to really experience it. And for me, it would be open-ended questions. I would have to be careful to give you open-ended questions, right? Right. It's something you can build from, right? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's unique, absolutely different than what I've done my entire life. Yeah.
You don't have leading questions. So, like when you slept with his wife.
Leading questions. Yeah. There you go.
What name?
It's leading. It's leading.
Yeah. Leading questions. See,
otherwise,
open and leading.
Otherwise, you get paralysis, right? Like, tell me something about this guy, and it's like, tell me why he hates you.
Right. That's
okay. Well,
well, this guy hates you. So when you slept with his wife, who exactly saw that?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, so the interesting thing, like even though I'm bitching about prepping for All for One, the thing is it's not that much prep. It's making sure that what non-player characters am I going to involve like in this? Are they encountering this? There's no story, but what do they want? And like, it's making sure that like it's consistent with what's happened before. So there's all kinds of threads. So I mean, there's not too much I have to prep other than like, here's the scenario, and after that they can go around. But then, should they go to another area and interact with another one of those NPCs, I better remember what the hell they want. You know, so I don't have to prep it anymore, but I have to be accurate.
Yeah, because they're also thinking of they know what they know about the NPCs, and if you've got the wrong one, for instance, you're not communicating. Right. If you've got the wrong lady, if you got the wrong woman, right?
Yeah, it's wild. What I found too with this game is like you have to be really you really should run this game for other GMs, but you have to know your players and know that they won't be like, oh, I don't want to say anything bad, because then the GM will, because this game is fun when you screw yourself. Yeah. Like that's the best way, because inevitably you will do it, and sometimes you'll know it and sometimes you won't. And it's like when you say something and then the GM's like, yep. And then they go and you're like, oh God, but it's fun. Yeah. It's
And we get that if you play you play any game that way. If you don't play D&D to win and you play D&D as your character.
Yeah.
Very often as the player says, ooh, I don't think this is a smart thing to do, but this is what Jurgen will do, and I'm going to do it, and we'll see what happens. Because I'm playing Jurgen.
They die.
Right.
Well, I mean, like, just as an example, in one of my games, like I was playing a 5e game, and I was a ranger or whatever, and we were on a raft, and these things came up, and I got knocked off the raft, and so I come back onto it, and I say to the GM, I come back and I reach for an arrow, and I've only got one left. Because to me, I was like, it makes sense. My arrows are going to fall out of my quiver if I fall in the water, right?
Right.
And I could like the other people, and it was a Hangouts game, but I could kind of see their reactions, and a couple of them were like,
because if you play with a certain group of people, and they would accuse you of gimping yourself, which could hurt the party.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny because I've seen that happen. It's like, I'm not gimping myself. This is what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But these guys are competitive, or if Pathfinder, for instance, when it's tactical, they're going to be madder than hell if you leave yourself with one arrow.
Yeah. And these guys were totally cool about it. But yeah, I'm like, but that's what I do. And I realize that sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, you got to like know the people that you're playing with, because they could be like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I fell in the water. What do you mean? Like, that doesn't say that in the book.
And it really takes a want to experience the game in a way, a legitimate, as I talk about it, authentic all the time, which is not the right word probably, but yeah, and I love that myself. So I like
those are your words.
Play it.
Legitimate and authentic. Those are your catchword phrases. Yeah,
in context.
Yeah.
But actually, let me. The game does actually. It's got those player principles, and I know I actually made a video talking about how they contradict themselves in one part. But here's I'll stop that. I'll say this one spot here. It's actually cool. The last one really kind of reins in like a lot of my concerns about this kind of shared narrative play.
Yep.
It talks about it says respect the GM's role. The GM is there to keep the game flowing smoothly. They are not an opponent to defeat. They're not an enemy to outwit. They are there to keep the universe running so that players can be the protagonists. The GM has the right and duty to rein in behavior they feel is disruptive or goes against the tone and the narrative of the game. And here's where it really, you get where it comes to the point is unless the GM specifically prompts them, the players should refrain from altering or inventing facts about the universe. So that whole idea of like, kind of one-upping each other or contradicting what is canon, for lack of a better word. I mean, and I don't think, coming back out of the water and saying, "Oh, I only have one arrow left," is really false. I mean, that's just
logic. Yeah.
That's logic. But
it's playing fair is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a cool little bit of advice. It's still vague.
Right.
Yeah. I think this guy Sean, I don't know him personally, but I think he's coming at it from a very that his players are probably coming from old school, like maybe he is. So he's like careful, because most people who play narrative games, they don't need that piece of instruction.
Right.
Well, but this is for guys like us, right? Who've come from strong.
Yeah.
old school roots, right? And maybe this is your first game of in a narrative style, so maybe that's worth pointing out, because
well, we see
don't
that
be too scared of this narrative thing. Yeah,
and we've all seen that at the traditional D20 table. The guy that shows up and he says, well, I can jump to that window, and you're like, well, no, there are some boundaries here. You can't. Well, why can't I? We've all seen that guy, even in D20. So you can imagine what can happen in this environment right here, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
that
we come out of hypersport, and there's exactly the space station we need, and so.
But I think that's exactly why he wrote it down, because he knows that the people who are going to be anxious about that is us, who've seen it in the D20 table, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
because the first thing I think is, okay, narrative gaming. Woo! How do we do this without it getting crazy?
Well, yeah, I made a video maybe a year and a half ago or something like that, and I talked about it. Like I call it the
it's for us.
It is. I call it the make it red, make it blue problem. And I don't know if you ever remember Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
When the fairy said, and there's that dress, and they make her dress, and they finally use magic for the first time in 16 years, and one of them's turning it blue, and the other one, no, it's going to be red, and bam, 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 and they're what they're doing is they're altering game world reality. Back and forth to suit themselves. And I'm like, the first time I heard about stuff like that, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. All those guys I used to play with that I couldn't stand, they're all going to like have control. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, these games, it's super important to have the right players and the right mindset, because it's like, and I don't know, it's hard to say it when you're kind of in that frame of those players, right? But it's like the best PBTA games are the ones where you pick at the other character just a little bit, right? And you put in just that little bar, but the whole point is that they're going to fire back, and then you're going to have that cool moment, you know. And it's not the players like, getting on each other. It's the characters doing these things that are causing tension, but they're not like, oh, but turns out that your faction actually doesn't have power because blah blah. It's like,
oh God, yeah, that would be a mess. That would be a mess.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the thief; it steals from the party member.
Oh yeah, don't
that guy. Yeah, that guy. We all want to say, "That's it, you're out. Get that."
But I'm a Kender. That's what I would do.
Right. Which is. Let me tell you. No, I played that guy last week, so don't give me that crap. I didn't steal from him, but Saturday I didn't help them because that wasn't what I was.
That I don't see again. That doesn't bother me. Yeah, because again, self-preservation is in all of us to some.
That was good. That was good role play. That was good role play. I'm going to stand by that. But actually, the thing is. What I was relieved by is like, a game like this will at least give you some kind of procedure. Like, it's not just free form. It's like, here's your time to say something, which harkens all the way back to I think it was James V. West was the guy that wrote The Pool, which was like the first game where it had a procedure, like, who gets authority? Like, it's going to hand over authoritative control to the player. Now, here's your chance to say something. And James V. West, who actually subscribes to my channel, by the way. No, it's cool. But no, cool dude. He made some interesting comments and whatnot. So I'm actually just kind of honored. Like, you got to be kidding me, you're watching me. Yeah. But nice. I mean, so it's the point being, it's not a free for all. It's like there's a procedure. This is when you get the authority. Okay, and we're gonna take it back now. And here's some constraints around your authority. Like, this is what you get to say narratively, and this is what you don't get to say. And this. That little ditty in right there gives us, that little box. Like, okay, here's what you can do. Right. But once you're inside that box, it's kind of sky's the limit. So that's cool.
And I think a respect for the other players, truth is the key to all role playing. You have to respect that other player's truth. Yeah. Right. And then play around that truth, and then share that truth is the way I see it. But I think this is a game that you better have those kind of people, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the whole idea of like, it's so much fun when I think a lot of people, like, instinctually you think like, oh, I want spotlight time, right, in the game. But it's been my experience that when you actually set it up so that you can shine the spotlight on the other, people at the table, that's when you get those really deep, meaningful, like, role play moments, because inevitably, unless they're just not a good role player, right, they take that and they interact with that and they make something out of it, and then typically it goes back and forth. And so it's like, that's largely informed my play style and my game, you know, my GMing style as well, where it's like I'm gonna throw something at you guys, and then it's like roll with that, because if you don't, I'm gonna just be like, okay, moving on, you know, like pick it up. And so yeah, but man, it's like when you get that and it works, that's
you have to be generous to be a good role player, right? And the spotlight time should come because it's natural.
Yeah.
Not because you want it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have to be generous. You have to be generous. So fascinating.
Screw that. That's mine. Anyhow. Well, it's like what, like almost midnight 30 where Eli is. So we should probably
Nice.
But I tell you what, do any of you guys have a problem with me making this a public video?
Oh no, I don't care.
No.
I think people will be fascinated because we're fascinating people. What the hell? But I think honestly, I think there should be more videos like this. Like, I mean, just the
process. Yeah.
The process videos are cool because that tends to be a lot of what's missing. Like, I love, you know, Anthony's made these videos where he has annotated actual play, and he said, well, this is what I'm doing, which was a ton of effort. But you're like, those are some of the coolest videos. I'm like, oh, I understand now how this works. And,
those are super
I got up this morning and I wanted to do that with our game last night because there's so much that I'm doing that you don't know, you don't see when I roll dice, and I thought it's 6 hours. There is no way I'm going to go through this thing and try to put you know, text for what I was doing or why I made a decision to have him roll his intelligence and below. But I thought it would be more educational than just people watching. They don't know why I'm doing it. But 6 hours. I said, that's crazy. Maybe I'll do that with a 2-hour video one day.
You have to download the video, cut little parts out, and then make little annotations. And
it's a nightmare. Yeah, I got to give him credit. It's remarkable when he did it. I said, boy, that's dedication. It's dedication.
But but other videos like this, we're discussing like how'd you just feel about that game, or all the recap videos we've made on like All for One, some of the recap videos on the Veil and whatnot. Those have been really cool. You know.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
so
they're informative. They teach. Yeah.
I think you mentioned this, Evan, but we should definitely do that after the session, like just to do like a bit of a recap, because I think it's interesting to see perspective before the game and then see perspective after the game, because a lot of people, like, it's been my experience that they're either like, holy crap, this was amazing, or they're like, wow, this was really weird, like I don't know how I feel yet about this, you know.
Well, and I would love a roundtable discussion post session like this.
Yeah.
Because then I can say, wow, you know, this is what I was thinking when I did this, and
totally.
I think that could be very cool because then you have a chance to actually discuss those moments that either confused me or
We did that in the Veil, like where we just left the camera running, so to speak, and like so that those games are not as long as as they look on when you first look at it, because there's probably 20-30 minutes of us BSing afterwards, like, how did this feel? What did you think about this? And then I'm like, oh. All right, but anyhow, I promised to let Eli go to bed, so.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I look forward to the game Friday.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take it easy, guys. Thanks.
Good night.
Night.